The gaming world can be super weird. You know this, I know this, and that's why we make these videos every month. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 weirdest gaming stories from February 2020. Starting off at number 10, a cosplayer by the name of Juan Herong, apologies if I've mispronounced in any way, is very well known for being both a bodybuilder and a cosplayer of popular Street Fighter and SNK characters. She's cosplayed as both Chun-Li from Street Fighter and Mai Shiranui from King of the Fighters, and none of this sounds weird so far. What's weird about it is actually that this person, who does actually pretty darn good cosplays of these characters, is also a physician who is fighting coronavirus. You no doubt heard about the coronavirus on the news. I'm not going to pretend I understand whether or not it's just hype or if it's a really genuinely scary thing, but it's always cool to see a cosplayer in their natural habitat doing something to help the world. At number 9, a very strange, to say the least, but possibly positive or possibly not. I don't really know how to take it personally, and alright, out with it. A mother whose 7-year-old child unfortunately died, and a Korean TV special focused on the family grieving it with one final, let's say, really out there proposition. At the end of the experience, the child was completely modeled in 3D, and the mother was reunited with her in VR. Now, the reason I say I'm not sure whether this was positive or negative is because I could easily see this becoming a problem fast. I mean, we talk about addiction in video games that are significantly less immersive and don't literally exist to reunite you with a dead loved one. These things are real, if not a little exaggerated by the media, but wow, this is another level. At the same time, no one should be taken from their child when their child is 7. It's honestly a tough call from me, but it's heartbreaking to look at the video of this. You just feel awful, like a parent shouldn't have to lose a child. At number 8, a cafe for the Final Fantasy VII Remake opened in Tokyo, specifically in Akihabara, which is basically a total remake of the Square Enix cafe that was opened a couple of years ago that was significantly smaller than the location they have now. It was also not themed as a Final Fantasy VII cafe, which you might expect Square Enix to do in promotion of this game, which is coming fairly soon. The walls are plastered with Final Fantasy VII stuff. They serve mocktails, various drinks that are themed with swords in them, and the swords are wafers that you can eat. The food looks fairly good to me, and the gift shop looks fairly cool as well. It's filled with not only Final Fantasy VII merchandise, but a lot of generalized Square Enix merchandise. Lots of Shinra stuff though. Bags, coats, etc. It's a really cool place, although you would never see anything like this in the United States. I don't know how it could possibly sustain itself in anything other than a temporary capacity. Doesn't make it not cool though. Coming in at number 7, perhaps incredibly appropriately so, a 7-year-old won a Pokemon championship. Now, I know that sounds extra weird, but it was a junior Pokemon championship. Still, a 7-year-old facing off against 13-year-olds. 7-year-old winning is, pretty impressive. More impressive is that this particular 7-year-old, Simone Lim, has never competed before. No one had ever seen her at a tournament, no one had ever competed against her. She was completely new, came in and swept it. The person she beat was a 21-time regional champ, which I don't know if that's age limited or not, but clearly it's somebody who knows what they're doing. It's another person who got to the end of the Pokemon tournament, clearly. And basically everybody loved the kid. It was one of those situations where everybody was like, oh, that's the nicest thing. Very good. Thank you, world. Thank you for not always being bad. At number 6, Activision issued a subpoena to Reddit because somebody leaked that there was going to be a battle royale in Modern Warfare. I'm going to just go ahead and say, I don't understand why anyone would care about that. The weirdest element of this is the idea that they would actually be angry about something that generates anticipation for a mode in a game. In theory, they want people to eventually want. I get that they don't want people to want it now, but rather when they can have it. But part of that is anticipation, like I said, that some players were able to glitch their way into a battle royale mode was treated via copyright law as a serious problem. But again, it's literally just like some people figuring out there was a thing that we all kind of suspected was going to happen anyways. Like, let's just say you need to create a marketing campaign. And instead of having to spend money on it, some other person, a total random, someone you've never heard of in your entire life, comes up to you and hands you the entire budget for the entire project. It's free advertising. Weird is the only word you can call this. At number 5, Sony patented a new artificial intelligence tool that would help people who were getting stuck in PlayStation games. The full name of the tool is an in-game resource surfacing program, which sounds a lot more sinister than it should. Considering it's artificial intelligence and everyone is secretly terrified of the idea that AI will one day take over the world, I'd have tried to find a nicer, more human-sounding name for it, but whatever, not the main point. According to the patent, this would help search and identify in-game resources that assist a player based on contextual data and data from a community of similar players. Basically, the artificial intelligence would compare data from other players and how they got through the thing that you need help with, and point the player in the proper direction. Now, this is something that sort of comes along with the idea of a more open-ended type of gaming. If you're randomly generating content and nothing really has a set solution, then this is the Na'vi of the next century, perhaps. Listen! Actually, now I don't want it. At number 4, hackers have been spawning two-headed skeletons in Red Dead Online, having them attack people at random. Now, this is of course done via mod menus that people are installing in the game, and that's not something you're supposed to do, so don't. Seriously, don't. But on the other hand, it is kind of funny. Like, it's not just skeletons either. Through the time that this has been online, people have been spawning bears and various nonsense. But the way that you can actually have some sort of recourse is by looking straight up into the sky, because apparently the person doing this stuff is going to be directly above you in a hot air balloon. I don't know, I guess that the cheats had to be the most absurd and silly thing you've ever seen in your life, with the two-headed skeletons punching you in the face and the bears just jumping out of nowhere. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. The only recourse is, of course, reporting the person in the hot air balloon, so I guess do that or become a hot air balloon cheater pilot yourself. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. At number 3, an Xbox game studio is experimenting with low-res textures that will be artificial intelligence upscaled in real time. Microsoft acquired a company called PlayFab a couple of years ago, and what they do is essentially work on cloud tools for making games work better. They created a tool that actually up-reses low-resolution textures with incredibly good results. For instance, Morrowind was upscaled with textures using this thing, and it really looks way better. PlayFab and this internal studio or studios are looking at the idea of shipping games with very low resolution textures that are upscaled on the fly, because apparently they're not really able to tell the difference between a 2K texture that was handmade and a machine upscaled texture made from a much smaller version. In theory, this could make download times near nothing compared to what they are now. On account, one of the main reasons downloads are ballooning is because texture sizes are ballooning. Even though you can definitely compress textures, 2K textures are big and you can't compress them all to hell and expect people to be happy with it. What we have in this tool is a potential magic compression algorithm that isn't actually a compression algorithm, but rather this totally insane thing that makes the consumer end of a download that would normally be huge way more painless. At number 2, an interview with late Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi had him really not pulling his punches when he said why he thought Nintendo lost to PlayStation in the 1990s despite having the superior hardware in the Nintendo 64. In his opinion, he thought Japanese gamers wanted to play depressing games in a dark room alone. Which isn't wrong. Frankly, games on the Nintendo 64 tended to make me feel more happy than Final Fantasy VII, which was kind of a story about how everything was falling apart, and you had to embrace the end of humanity as we knew it in order to get everything back on track. And that was like one of the better games on PlayStation. Don't even get me started on Final Fantasy VIII. That game is not happy. But I mean, I think he also kind of meant it as a very insulting thing, as opposed to just some sort of objective diagnosis. think he was calling PlayStation fans losers in a roundabout way. It was quite interesting to hear that opinion after so many years. And finally, at number 1, another heartwarming story has emerged regarding Nintendo's customer service, which, as you know, from the well-known, well-earned reputation, is above and beyond what anyone expects customer service to ever be. A few years ago, a 95-year-old grandmother who loved to play Tetris on Game Boy, when one day it stopped working. Her son called into Nintendo customer service to see if it could be repaired or replaced, and they said, well, we don't have the parts to repair it, but give us some time. They called back later, having found a brand new condition Game Boy in a warehouse, and they shipped it to them. And the grandma lived to be 99, and up until the end, she was playing that Game Boy. Now keep in mind, this would have been like 2015, 2016, and they had essentially a new in-box Game Boy sitting around a warehouse, and they just sent it to somebody. You could put it on eBay if it was actually an original Game Boy, and they were like, send it to the nice old lady. That's awesome. And a couple of bonus points for you. Modders remade the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas Hot Coffee mod in Red Dead Redemption 2 because, of course. And this other weird thing, maybe not necessarily the weirdest, but a weird way of announcing that you're doing this. CD Projekt Red announced that you won't have to buy Cyberpunk 2077 for the Xbox Series X if you've bought it for Xbox One already. You'll just get it. It'll be in your library. The weird thing is that this is basically them announcing that they're making the Xbox Series X version. No word yet on PS4 versus PS5, although the wording of this was gamers should never be forced to purchase the same game twice. So PlayStation gamers maybe hold their feet to the fire on that. That's all for this month. Was this month sufficiently weird enough for you? For me, it certainly was. Leave us a comment, let us know what you're thinking. If you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.